All right. Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. I hope you all had a great weekend. I am Avery. For those of you who don't know me, I'm head of programming and events for Female Founder Collective. And the 10th house is I also work with their team over at the North. Divya Mathur, actually, who we're speaking to today, is one of the advisors over at the North. So if you're looking for one-on-one advice, if you are looking to get into retail or just questions about merchandising, fashion space in general, obviously, this is the perfect person to speak to, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about why if you don't know already. But before we hop into that, I'd love to know where you're joining us from. If you could pop into the chat where you're joining us from, and then also if you have any questions. If we have time for questions, for live questions, I will take those at the end. But if not, would still love to have those. That way, if we have any chance to follow up. But let us know where you're joining us from. If you are joining us from Los Angeles, hopefully we'll see you at Female Founders Day. That is happening on March 23rd, obviously in LA, in downtown LA. And that's a full day of programming and events. We have workshops, we have panels, we have keynotes, we have breakout sessions for networking, we have happy hour. There are so many different ways that you can learn from others who are experts in their space, but also network with people who can be of service to you as you grow your business. I'm seeing, whoa, we have so many people joining us live. I'm seeing all of your comments coming in on where you're joining us from. We have Canada, we have Dallas, we have LA, we have Germany. Welcome. Okay, I don't want to spend too much time on this because we only have 15 minutes with Divya, and I'm so excited to dive into these conversations. So for those of you who don't know, Divya has been in the fashion space for nearly 20 years, working in senior positions for companies like Shopbop, Michael Kors, Saks Fifth Avenue, and most recently as CMO of Intermix. Obviously, she has a passion for products, but she really does have the ability to foresee evolving marketing trends and really help people transform their digital and physical storefronts. So we're going to be talking about both of those as well. And on top of all of the things that she does, she also serves as a board member for two nonprofits, the Arthur Miller Foundation and Raise Fashion. So that's amazing as well. Oh, just on the chat, we have Barcelona in here, Venezuela, Toronto. So exciting to see you all joining from all over the world. Divya, I'm going to hop right in to the first question, which I know probably everyone would like to hear the answer from, and that's high-level tips for getting into your dream retailer.
Well, thank you, Avery, for the introduction and for the welcome. I'll dive right in as well. And I would say first and foremost, you really want to perfect your pitch. I think for anybody who's ever, had to raise money or anything like that, getting into your dream retailer is very similar. You want to have a really succinct, 5 to 8 minute pitch on your brand. And what you want to cover in that is one, being able to articulate a very clear product point of view, what your brand is about and what your product is about. I think number two, being able to speak very succinctly about who your core customer is, and what your brand positioning is. When I say brand positioning, think about it in terms of, these are the brands that we, sit next to. These are the brands that are complementary to us. And here is why we are different than those brands, while still being complementary. And I think really doing your homework and research there is important, because that is a key differentiator and a key thing for retailers when they think about, is this a space that I want to grow my brand matrix in? So they really want to be able to understand right away where you sit. And then you also have to be able to justify why you sit there. So if you are positioning yourself as a luxury brand at luxury price points, you really need to be able to justify why your brand is positioned in that space. And then lastly, being able to very clearly talk about the white space that your brand fills. So even if you are complementary to other brands, what are you doing that maybe that retailer doesn't have enough of, or you're seeing as a white space, or your specific niche is within your core area that you sit in? I think being able to cover those three things very succinctly is kind of the biggest pieces of information that a retailer wants when they're deciding if that brand makes sense in their matrix.
That is so helpful. And I know we just had a conversation inside of the private membership community, the 10th house, and our members were able to ask you some questions. And one of the things that I loved is you said, if you are going to cold email or, send a DM via Instagram, include images in that email because a lot of people are scrolling on their phones when they're looking at these inbound asks and pitches. So I thought that that was a great tip. And we're going to get a little bit more into white space here in a moment. But before we get to that, how can you communicate your value proposition to increase the size of your footprint once you get into a retail space?
Yeah, so I would turn that question around and say, what does that retailer care a lot about?
Mm.
And how does your brand help address that? So let's say you are in your dream retailer. Congratulations, not easy. I think the next step, if you say, okay, we built a small business here. Now I really want to grow with this retailer, which is exactly the right approach. I always advise everyone start with fewer partnerships. It is how you build a long-term business rather than just simply trying to say, I want to get in every retailer as fast as I can. Start with fewer partnerships and scale your business with those partners. And on that point, when you think about scaling your business within a retailer, it's what can you do for that retailer? Does that retailer really care about attracting a certain type of customer? And is that something you can help them do? Are you bringing in a price point that they have historically, not been able to grow, or that they are very focused on growing, and you can help offer more products or end uses or classifications within that price point? Or is this a lifestyle or a classification that the retailer is very focused on growing, and therefore you can build your business with them as a way to help them bring more products into a classification or lifestyle that is very important to them? So I'd say do your homework on what the retailer cares about and ask those questions. What is their strategic priorities for the upcoming year, the upcoming buy season, and pull out the things that really resonate with your brand and what you can do, and come back to them with, well, here's ways that I can help you achieve, these things that I know are important for you over the next 6 months to a year.
Right. So important to be able to get in the headspace to think like a retailer or a merchant. So that's such great advice. Earlier, you touched on white space being a part of your pitch approach. What trends do you feel are emerging that aren't fully satisfied within the retail space? So where do you see that there's white space currently?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say a big one for me has been footwear. I think in the footwear market, we have seen just a massive surge and growth in designer footwear, and along with that, the prices. So footwear has gotten tremendously expensive over the past 3 years, and even within designer brands, you used to have opening price points of, $695 for a basic pump. We're now seeing that same exact pump is now starting at $995. I mean, these are meaningful price increases. And so as that, kind of designer luxury shoe market has really exploded, and I think a lot of it was driven by that post-pandemic, just party shoe, big trend that we saw of everybody really wanting a statement heel. So while that has really kind of propelled the top of the market, it's created a very big white space for truly accessibly and contemporary priced footwear. And also not just party footwear, but actual footwear for day to day, whether that's a great boot, a great flat. That was a big focus for us, in my previous role, looking at, how we could build out that really kind of accessible contemporary footwear market, because we were just seeing so many new brands in the designer space, but leaving quite a hole for that, 395 to 795 customer. I think another big white space is outerwear. Kind of same thing. We've seen a lot of pressure in outerwear where prices are getting higher and higher. Or we've seen kind of a lot in the very opening inexpensive outerwear that tends to be very faux fur driven, but sitting right in the middle of what is that kind of, great outerwear that doesn't break the bank but can still be functional, offer trend and novelty, was another big white space for us. And then overall in the market, and I've been hearing this from a lot of retailers, it's, we've definitely seen growth in specialty sports. So ski, tennis, golf, these are all kind of aspects of, the customer's lifestyle, right? And right now those markets tend to be very fragmented. So she's buying her tennis here, golf here, ski here, but honestly, she'd probably all like to buy it with the same lens that she goes to a retailer for. So I think, really kind of having brands that are able to do, fashion product within that end use is another big opportunity.
Absolutely. As someone who lives in Colorado, would love to see more outerwears in that space. And also, I have a ton of friends who are obsessed with pickleball, and they're like wanting to get their amazing outfits before they go on the court. So I love that. That's so relevant. And then, have you seen a difference in how people shop that you can help individuals advise on?
I think there's a lot of choice online right now. I think we're kind of living through this, web 2.0 to transitioning to web 3.0 where, there's online fatigue in the sense that online catalogs have gotten so big and there's so much choice when a customer goes onto dresses. And even if you're filtering for, short sleeve, red, midi, I mean, you're still getting like 30 pages of results. So, I think what I've really been seeing is customers are just wanting more guidance on what to buy. There's been a lot around outfitting. Customers are, just saying like, help me put the outfit together. I don't have time to go through all these different results and then try to find a shoe and a belt and an earring. So we're really seeing that has been a big focus. A lot more destination focused shopping. People are kind of like, what should I wear for a wedding in Tulum? And there's, so I think things that are able to guide around that are very helpful. And it's also probably why we're seeing people kind of the renaissance of physical stores. I think that's why people are walking back into the store because they want real life help, or at least better help than they're getting online with these types of searches and questions.
Yeah. And you mentioned in our last conversation that you're seeing more and more digital aspects coming into the shopping space, into the retail space. For example, QR codes you mentioned for that outfitting guidance. I know, I'll go onto a retail space's Instagram and see if they have a piece that I bought and how it was worn there. So that's super helpful. It's like I do these things as a consumer, and I'm looking for them. So to hear on the other side that that's being considered is really cool. Um, Another question that we have is how much does the consumer really care about sustainability versus product and price? We're hearing a lot about fast fashion and luxury and everywhere in between. And we see a lot of pushback about fast fashion on social media, but is that affecting how people actually shop?
I do think the consumer really cares about it. I think that the way I'm most excited about it, and I think the way retailers are starting to embrace it is through the resale model. I think that is what is going to be very exciting is kind of the growth of the circular economy. I think people are going to move away from wanting to buy these, really inexpensive, cheap, one-time wear things and instead looked for this circular economy where they can, maybe buy something that was worn once before by somebody who bought it to wear to a wedding and they no longer need it, but now they can go onto their favorite retailer and it's easy for them to buy pre-loved. And you've seen some of the retailers have already launched that. And there's a lot happening in the technology space around companies that are trying to make it very easy for the consumer to buy something and to easily resell it right back into that ecosystem. And so I think as a consumer, that's going to be something that feels very fulfilling, right? You might buy something expensive that you're just like, oh, it's for my best friend's wedding. I'm only going to wear it once, maybe twice. And now you kind of no longer have to just be like, oh, and then it's going to sit in my closet, or I'm going to have to go through the headache of trying to figure out how to resell it as these technologies come around that make it really easy to just sell it right back to where you bought it from and possibly get credit or a discount or whatever it is. So I think it's win-win for the customer. And I do think that's how people are really going to kind of think about sustainability going forward, because, the truth of it is that buying more things by definition is just not sustainable, right? So the only way fashion can become more sustainable is of course through innovations in fabric and production and all of that. But even as a consumer, thinking about, the circular economy, how you have less of your closet be one-time use. And if it is, putting it right back into the economy for somebody else who's going to be able to enjoy that for the first time without creating a new garment. So I really think that resale is going to be an exciting game changer for both the consumer and the retailer.
That's amazing. I love the idea of thinking about sustainability within all those aspects. I know we just have basically 30 seconds left with you because we had an intimate conversation right before this inside the community. But as I mentioned at the top, you are an advisor on the North. I I would love to know what topics you are most passionate about helping mentor others through.
Sure. I mean, I think obviously, all things retail. And I think what's interesting about retail right now is just that a lot's changing, like marketplace models are coming into all of the major retailers, which is changing how buyers, have to make decisions on the brands and products that they carry. So I think really, helping people to understand, what the retail environment is like, both physically in stores as well as digitally. And then, my passion also is in fashion tech. And I do some advisory work for and investing for companies, mostly AI and resale is where I'm most passionate about. But even just thinking about how those things are really going to change online shopping as well as physical shopping are ways that I would love to help others.
And you're such an expert. Just hearing your answers to these questions, it's like your holistic approach to everything is so impactful. So I'm really excited for people to be able to learn from you and to be able to grow their businesses. You're advising with you. So thank you everyone who joined us here live. I appreciate it. I see we have people joining us from all over, which is always exciting. I hope to see you at our upcoming events. But Divya, thank you so much for your time. You're such an expert. And like I said already, you're so insightful. So we appreciate you sitting down with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. Bye, everyone.
Bye.